There are three ways you can have a majority atheist society. The Czech way, which is a country almost as conservative as Poland, lovely place by the way. The Chinese way, which is horrible but also debatable in the latest years since there are more Christians in the Communist Party than people in Czechia. And then there's Sweden. Let's explore. Hello everyone and welcome to the Freedom Alternative. Now, this is why we can't have nice things kind of video, and also this is why organized atheism is cancer kind of video. Now, I'll read from The Independent, which is a cancerous source per se, for the simple reason that I'm lazy and unwilling to put in the effort to translate from Swedish, which I usually do. So, coming from The Independent, Sweden opens first atheist cemetery to cater to growing non-religious population. And here we go. Quote, "A graveyard free of any religious symbols has been opened in Sweden to cater to the country's growing number of atheists. Josef Erdem, a teacher from Borlänge in central Sweden, first proposed the idea because he wanted people to, quote, decide for themselves what their graves should look like, close quote. He said he had grown up in Kurdistan and as a result his worldview had been shaped by having friends from all walks of life. He sent in the formal application for the ground after negotiating with local representatives of the Church of Sweden. The church will maintain the graveyard, but that will be the extent of their involvement with the cemetery. Mr. Erdem told the local people can decide for themselves what their graves should look like, but the cemetery will be free of all religious and nationalist symbols." Now hold on a second. Why no nationalist symbols? Are these people unaware of the very long stream of atheist involvements in nationalist movements? I mean, let me give you one example that is halal for Sweden. Abdullah Cevdet. Now, this guy was a militant nationalist and a militant atheist back in the days of the Ottoman Caliphate. I mean, he was branded, amongst other things, as an eternal enemy of Islam. And this was when the Ottoman Empire was still around. So, serious question. Why wouldn't nationalist symbols be allowed in an atheist cemetery? Anyway, let's read some more. Quote, "He stressed that people of faith were welcome to be buried there as long as they accepted that they could not have the marks of their religion on their headstone. The cemetery, which is close to the local church, is currently empty, but several locals have expressed an interest in being buried there. Local teacher Gunnar Lindgren told broadcaster SVT, "I don't want a burial place with a stone that needs to be cared for. I also don't want a church burial because I'm not a believer, so this suits me." Sweden has the second highest number of non-religious people as a percentage of its population of any country in the world, according to a 2015 survey by Gallup International and the WI Network of Market Research. The study found that 76% of Swedish respondents said they were either non-religious or convinced atheists. The only country to score higher was communist-controlled China, where religion is officially frowned upon. And again, with China is a bit more complicated than that. I explained some of that in the video about Chinese education, which you can watch here. Now, I'm as atheist as they come. It has never been a secret to anyone ever at any given moment in time. With that said, my experience with organized atheism has been unanimous. It's cancer. And this is why I don't have too many atheist friends, and those that do stick around tend to be even more conservative than I am. But in all seriousness, I really don't understand this endeavor. I mean, look. There is such thing as not being a dick. Going on the church's territory to impose your will is being a dick. Now, one of my grandfathers was an atheist and a war hero and the most conservative human being I ever met. When he was old, he basically said that he doesn't care how his grave looks like and doesn't mind a cross on top of it. He would mind, though, if no military honors would be presented. One of his best friends, though, was also an atheist that did care and absolutely wanted a stone that did not have religious symbols on it. They're now buried in the same section, very close to each other, my grandpa with a cross and his friend with a rectangular stone that mentions his war hero status, his name, and his legacy. And guess what? Nothing happened. The militant atheist one did not jump from the grave to reap the crosses of the others, nor the others claimed any disturbance because of the heathen cemetery colleague. Going further, and I saw this in Ukraine, and you will see it too once I get to finish the video on Chernivtsi. I haven't forgotten, by the way. So basically, I saw in Ukraine that there were zero problems to bury communist atheist party members with rectangular stones, even right next to priests, for crying out loud. And again, the USSR had an absolute power, so creating an atheist cemetery wasn't exactly a problem for them, yet for some reason, not even the anti-theists and anti-clerical commies thought that was an actual necessity. The point I'm trying to make here is that this is essentially being a dick, and it's just as silly as the lesbian-only cemetery opened 2 years ago in Berlin. I mean, of course it had to be in Berlin. I mean, if it's degenerate and it's not in Sweden, then it has to be in Berlin. And what's even worse is that the request for this did not even come from atheists, but from a religious dude, probably a Muslim. Now ask yourselves this: why would a Kurdish dude suddenly find so much care for Swedish atheists that he'd go through the hurdle of lobbying local authorities for 6 months to get it done? Because this proposal was first issued in April this year, mind you. And in the end, why do atheists even care that much? I mean, this is simply something that I cannot empathize with. I mean, I'm as godless as they come, but I simply cannot bring myself to care all that much what happens to my grave. I mean, I would rather be remembered by things that I did while alive and be grieved for my legacy, however big or small that may be, than be remembered by that as being that dude who turned the community upside down so he can get his bloody rectangular stone on the church's backyard. I mean, come on! And what bothers me the most is the absolutely cucked attitude of the church in all of this. I mean, they've come from a fully oppressive church in late 19th century, which triggered the Great Swedish Migration, mostly to the United States, to a fully invisible church now that kowtows to literally anyone and everyone but its constituency. No wonder that many Swedes declare themselves non-religious. I mean, why would any sane person follow the Church of Sweden, which seems to be the church for everyone but Swedish Christians? I don't know, this just robs me as being very wrong. I mean, if it was really such a necessity, then why not build a private cemetery? That's what the solution here that was the solution here in places where the city hall cemeteries were already full and the church refused non-orthodox funeral on its own turf. The market delivered. Why couldn't they just go down the same route? Why insist on going on a land owned by the church? You see, this is what I bloody hate about way too many atheists, because they act like toddlers. It's almost like they simply can't breathe unless they invade the church. Why can't the church mind its own business like it does in Sweden, and you mind your own bloody business too? Is it really that hard? I mean, it shouldn't, especially in Sweden, where Christians are a tiny minority anyway. Anyway, I mean, this is just wrong, no matter how you look at it. That's all I had to say. Thanks for watching.